Good evening, students. I hope you all are doing well. And today we are back with a reading session, and I'm going to do evidence-based reading today. We've already completed with the different kinds of purpose of the passage, and we have completed the central theme of the passage and style and tone of a text. Basically, now we are going to talk about the real thing that is going to happen is about the evidence-based reading test that you're going to attempt in your SAT or your ACT. Okay, so let's start the program with the basically we have this I'm sorry. Yeah. We have this evidence-based reading, and we are going to learn what are we going to read here. We did understand, what is reading and why is it to read, and reading is a skill, and what is it that you are going to supposed to find out, and blah blah blah. We have done a lot of things, but now we are going to do about what is evidence-based reading, and how it is it all about, and what are we supposed to read and stuff like that. So let's kickstart the class. Yeah, for ACT or ACT, success in reading is almost 400 marks, a 400 score in the ACT part. I'm sorry, in the SAT part, and on the total of 800 score, that is for English, the verbal part, you have 400 that is for evidence-based reading and 400 that is for evidence-based writing. And now when we are talking about evidence-based reading, we have almost to have 400 score, or we have to score 400 to get the full score. I mean, that is, you have to score on a scale of 400 to achieve success. And when we are talking about reading passages, I would like to tell you it requires a bit of energy and extra effort to score well here. Okay, so what does it test? Let's see, what does it test. Are we going to see something like what are we going to do, and how many questions do we have, or what is the time period that we are going to what is the time period that is going to be. So these are all the things that could be boggling your mind, and today I'm going to tell you what is it, what are you supposed to read, and how many questions would be there, what's the time limit, and how are you going to score, what are the techniques that you're going to use, and all that stuff. So let's kick start. So we have around 52 questions on the SAT, and we have almost 65 minutes to complete these 52 questions. That leaves us with 75 seconds per question. Okay, so what is it that we are going to read? What is it that is going to be tested? What is it that is going to be what is the duration of the test? How many questions do we have? All these questions might boggle our mind, and this is the answer. You have around 52 questions to answer, and for in 65 minutes, and you have around 75 seconds to 80 seconds to answer each question. Now that's really a task, and if you are thinking about 52 questions, but what is it that we're going to read? Because till now we have spoken about the purpose of the passage, we've spoken about the central theme, we have spoken the style and tone, about how a reading passage is presented by it, but we have not spoken about what kinds of topics that we are going to encounter. So this is, are we going to encounter some saucy novels or something really romantic and that stuff? I'm sorry, no, we're not going to have these beautiful characters. No. Okay, or are we going to read about some of the Marvel characters, some of the superhuman characters? I'm sorry, no, not even that. So what are we going to read? So these are the 5 kinds of passages that we are going to encounter. We will have 5 passages on the test, and let us see what are the topics and what is it going to cover. So the first one is going to be, one passage is for the world literature, and we will have a lot of one passage would be from the speeches or the global conservation or the US founding documents or the US Constitution. So one passage from literature, US or English literature or the world literature, and one speech. and passage would come from economics, topics on economics, or psychology or sociology or any social issue that's going to be an argumentative topic. And two passages are going to come on, they could be paired passages or one passage that would come on the concepts in earth sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, psychology. There could be lots of things on, there could be research papers, scientific research papers on geography and stuff like that. So these are the 5 kinds of passages that you would get. You would get 2 paired passages. We will also learn what are they. They're going to be on one concept but different perspectives. We're going to have that. Going to have 2 passages, and we're going to have one of the each. So there's going to be 5. Okay, out of these 5 passages, we are going to have 52 questions. When we are saying 52 questions, these 52 questions will be divided into 10s or 11s depending on the number of questions a passage can take. The paired passage will have the highest number of questions because it's going to be around 500 to 600 words passage. The paired passage, they are comparatively smaller. And you have 2 passages there, so they are going to give from one passage they're going to give around 4 to 5 to 6 questions, and from the second one, depending on the how many other questions they have given in the first passage, the second passage will have around 3 to 5 questions, or 3, 4, 5 different types of questions from the second passage, and cumulatively from both the passages you will have 3 to 4 questions. Again, it will not be more than 11 or 12 questions. 10 to 11, 12 questions is the highest number of questions that you will get from the paired passages. Okay, and from the remaining passages, they are pretty longer. They will be around 800 words to 850 words, and you will have 10 questions from there. Now, what are the kind of passages? We have already spoken about the different kinds of passages that you will encounter, but let us see from what is SAT based on, or what kind of. We have said that no romantic novels. We have said that no, what is it called? Something interesting to study. So let's see what is it that we're going to study. So the next one that we can have is there are 3 kinds of prose that will be given, and the first one is the expository prose. I would explain about each prose as we go forward in the session. So the first one is going to be the expository prose, the second one is going to be the rhetoric prose, and the third one is going to be the narrative prose. What are they? Let's have a look. The expository prose is basically on traditional essays and letters to the editor or the research papers. They're going to be talking about a subject. They're going to talk about something that has always been there and stuff like that. So this prose gives an idea about something. It gives you an it is going to talk about the subject. The subject is going to be more vivid. They could be descriptive depending upon, they could be discussing about an issue and different stuff like that. So the next one is also the newspaper stories, describing an event, describing a situation, describing a something relevant to whatever. It could be about the environment, it could be about a social issue, something like that. It's going to be more descriptive in form, and it is going to be, it can be a research paper also, depending on it could be a scientific research paper describing about a research or about a phenomena or about an a typical peculiar experiment. It could be anything and everything. The next one could be a newspaper release. It could be on a book, it could be on a cartoon, it could be on anything and everything. Okay, so and it could be articles. Articles are basically written on a point, so it could be about that also. So expository prose is more vivid in nature, and they're going to be basically taken from the newspapers like the New York Times or the Sun magazines and stuff like that. They're basically high profile. They come from the high profile thing, editorials. It could be about coming from the newspapers, from the editorial part. Every newspaper has an editorial part written by some well-known, renowned writers and authors. So basically, they publish there, and these papers can be used. Apart from that, research papers, you will be getting them from journals. You will be getting articles from magazines. And they will also be getting press release. Again, this is again about a topic or about an incident or stuff like that. The traditional essays could be about a subject, and they're going to at length talk about how describe an opinion or something like that. Okay, so that is about the expository prose. Now it could be also from the science textbooks. We could, as I said, they could talk about phenomena, they could talk about anything and everything. It could be social sciences, it could be the physical sciences, it could be the earth sciences, it could be anything. It could be the social science, everything they would cover. They can cover biology, physics, chemistry, psychology, geography, anything and everything. Okay, so the next one is the rhetoric prose. When we talk about the rhetoric prose, we need to understand that the rhetoric prose is basically, it talks about a viewpoint. It talks about someone's viewpoint. And when we talk about the viewpoint, they are basically essays, they are basically blog posts, they are basically magazines. They talk about a perspective, they talk about a profound subject. It won't be something like an article talking about a subject or an event or a situation, nothing like that. It talks about an opinion, it talks about a perspective, it talks about different things. So that is about the rhetoric prose. You could have speeches, you could have strong opinions, books, amazing material you would be able to read. For example, I want to talk about poetry, or don't want to talk about the poetry. I could pick up something like Plato's, shunning the poetry, or Aristotle's, defense against poetry. So there is a lot of things that you could read. So that is about the rhetoric prose. And the next one is, the third one is a narrative prose. When we are talking about narrative prose, we are talking about the fiction or non-fiction, the biographies, the stories, the novels, all these things. We are going to read about lives. We are not going to read about some saucy and crazy novels or those romantic fictional thing. Even if we are talking about fiction, we are going to talk about some struggle. We are going to talk about someone's, intense thought process. We're going to talk about how they have evolved and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about both the fiction or the non-fiction. And the non-fiction is basically more of the self, illuminating stories. There could be biographies. There could be novels, and novels also. They're going to be classic novels. They're not going to be some Nicholas Sparks or some novels of that part, but they're going to classic novels which talks about an immense struggle to live a life, or to come out of a situation and stuff like that. So that is about the narrative prose. When we talk about the narrative prose, we're going to get amazing stuff from different kinds of books. It could be about the old times, it could be about anything and everything. And when I say that it is narrative, it is going to be someone's narration, it is going to be someone who is narrating the whole thing happening. Okay, so that is about narrative prose. And now, why only have we chosen these kind of topics? Why have we only restricted ourselves to this kind of topics? It is because the SAT reading passages are handpicked as they present the kinds of prose the students are most likely to encounter in a college liberal arts curriculum. So they are not basically something that the SAT has been the college board has picked up, or it is not going to be somebody, it is basically an prometric test which talks about your intelligence rather than it's not just a mere English test. It is more about your comprehension skills. It is about the speed with which you could do a sum. That's the reason there is no apart from the essay part, there is no long lengthy essay answers that you have to write. You don't have to annotate anything. You don't have to find answers for anything. It is more about just giving your opinions. I mean, you just they are all MCQs where you just have to pick the right option. So basically, this test is about the testing of your IQ, and it is going to talk about how you are going to make it more more understandable, and how faster you'll be able to do the score. And now, why is it so? Why is it so? Because different colleges have the different ranges in which they would like to pick up their students. So they pick up their students depending on that. So they are not going to they're going to see the IQ levels. Definitely both the math and the English is basically comprehension based, and how and time based. So they are actually trying to understand what's your level of comprehension, and will it suit their college. So this is basically the college and the student suitable test. There is nothing called there's a score, but there's no ranking. Every student is unique. They understand that, and they respect the uniqueness also. So they don't give a rank. They don't though there are so many students who write the exam, but they don't give a rank at all. But yes, the kind of prose that has been selected for the exam is very profound, because this is the reason. So we need to understand that why this has been done such. Okay, so let's go forward. Now, we spoke about the purpose of the passage, we spoke about it all answers the question why, and we spoke about how it is, more interesting. I mean, we all have already done our class on the purpose of the passage and stuff like that. We'll have enormous questions which talk about what is the purpose of the passage, or why do you think this is the purpose of the passage, or where do you understand the purpose of the passage. These kind of questions will be there for the purpose of the passage. The next one is a central theme. We have also completed a session on central theme. This answers the question what. It talks about the central idea, and it talks about what has been written on the subject. So it is very important for us to know that what has been written and how does it go about it. Okay, so that is about the central theme, and we had a lengthy session on it, so I would not go forward and discuss about the central theme of the passage. The next one is the style and tone, and I have at length again given you a very elaborate session on the style and tone, about how a passage is written and how a passage is presented by the author. So it is not what you said, it's about how you said. So we have discussed the tones, we have discussed the kind of styles, so I don't think I have to discuss on this further, but this is also very important because there will be questions, specific questions, which I have showcased you on the in the class, in the session, where I have discussed about the different kinds of questions that would come up and you would have to answer. So, and what is the kind of approach you are supposed to have? Now, when I'm talking about different things, when I'm talking about the different passages, kinds of passages, and I'm talking about how you need to be compatible, how you need to understand different kinds of passages, speeches, literature. So it is very important. The right approach is very important. The kind of attitude that we would build up, the kind of mindset that we would carry is very important. There is even a book written by my student who talks about the approach when you are writing your SAT exam. It's written by Harjinder Singh. So he talks about his journey. He was basically a very a person who was grammatically and English. If I look at his English when he joined my class around in his class 9th, he was pathetic. But the kind of improvement that he had shown in a couple of years, I mean in 3 years, it was magnanimous. I mean, I was not able to understand that he got a 1500 plus in his SAT, and he has worked. I mean, literally, if I can say that I have taught someone from the scratch, I could talk about him. his sentences were broken, his understandability of the vocabulary was horrendous. He was not even able to construct a sentence properly, and he was so used to being spoon fed that he always expected that I should be spoon feeding him. We used to have long quarrels on because he expected me to give him the answer and I showed him the way how to find the answer. So we were on different pages, and I tried to tell him, but then you're all young, and it is very difficult for you guys to understand what your teacher is trying to tell you, even though if it is for your own good. Sometimes you just don't want to listen to the person because you feel that it is a harder task or a harder path, so it's better to get the answer. But by the end of the journey, 2 years, we still felt like we would be always on the brawling spree. I would tell him that this is the answer and try to understand the, why the synonym does not match or why the antonym cannot go, and he would say that give me the answer and why is it like this, why is it like that. He would question everything, and then I said that if you don't have the right approach, I don't think anybody can do much for you. So, and that is when we separated. I was his 10th class teacher, and then we parted our ways. In 11th grade, I purposely sent him to a different teacher, and then he started questioning why, what, how. And the approach that he took when he was in the next class was different, because you also become older and you also become to understand different things. And I always have this thing that you have to focus, you have to engage, and you have to attack. So though I have all the three things of focus, engage, and attack, but if you are not able to if you don't have the right attitude, it is really not going to work out. Though you know that this is a thing that you have to do, but any test, until and unless your attitude is, if your approach matches your attitude, it is not going to, you're not able to stick on to the right point or stick on to the right, to the core of a problem. So the attitude is really very important. It's the attitude. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. So the attitude is very important. The kind of mindset that we need to have to attack, focus, and engage this test is different. So we need to get into that. We need to understand that how ridiculously difficult the speech might be, but you still need to do it because you want to reach your dream university. You want to go there, that level where you are nobody can beat you, and you are unbeatable. So the attitude that why is it important is very important when you are taking up a test, and how is it going to change your life in the next 5 years or 10 years is also very important. This is not about your teacher pushing you to take the test. It is not about your parents pushing you to take the test, but it is going to be your push, your focus, your engagement, your skills that is going to surface if you are taking the test for the right reasons, if you are working on the test for the right reasons. So the attitude is very important, and you have to come in terms with it, and you have to understand why you're doing a thing and where you're going to reach if you do it the right way. So it's very important that we have this. The next thing is the types of questions that would come. Yes, I have already discussed about the purpose, theme, and all that stuff, but let us just have a look at what are the kinds of questions that are going to come, and what is it that you have to do. So now they are going to be summary based questions. It's going to talk about the gist, or it is going to talk about how you have to attack the question. So you have to take up different strategies to do this kind of a question. So the second kind of a things is the inference base, or how it concludes, or what you conclude about it, what you infer from it, or something like that. So they are basically the inference based questions which talk about different inferences as to this is what the author has said, but what is it that you have derived? What is the point that you have come to is very important. The third one is a factual based question. When you talk about the factual based question, you're basically trying to understand that you have to come to a line, like there will be a lot of questions where the line numbers would be given, and you would be asked to understand or take the right option. Then you have to do this factual based, you have to find the fact, and then you have to get bounce back to the question and answer it. The fourth one is a paired questions. In paired questions, what you have to do is that you will have to, there are going to be two questions, and both the questions can be dealt either the first one first and the second one second, or the second one first and the first one second. So you can at your own convenience you can answer the questions. So there's no need to the answers are there. It is just that you need to find it. So the line numbers would be given, and they would ask which lines is giving you the right answer and stuff like that. So they are going to be around two questions, two pairs in one 10 questions passage, so around 4 questions. So if you can excel that, 4 questions are for sure right. Okay, the last one that I would say is they are basically the the last one is the vocabulary based questions, vocab questions. In this vocab questions, they basically give the line numbers, and then they would tell you contextually what does the vocabulary mean. So that is kind of a fifth kind of a question that you will have. Yes, they would come for a factual thing, but this is basically a contextual question. Contextual based. So I could say she has a beautiful face, and I can also say she has a beautiful day. When I talk about she has a beautiful day, I'm going to talk about how her day has been and how beautiful it has been because she met some of her old friends, or she spent her day on a beach, or she spent her day with her spouse or her better part, or she had a beautiful day with her students. It could be anything, and or she might have just relaxed and binge watched her day, seeing all those web series and on Netflix, or binge watched movies, or she could have had the best brunch she was looking for for a long time, or she would have had a beautiful conversation with someone. So this is how you can have a beautiful day. And a beautiful face is about the face, how is it painted, how it looks, or the physical features, or how it is beautified. That is all it is. So when we talk about the contextual usage, contextual base, we're talking about what is it that it talks about. When we talk about a beautiful face, beautiful, the word beautiful, in that context, whether if it is body, if it is, we are talking about the physical aspect of beauty, or we are talking about some different aspect of about beauty. So we need to understand that. So they are basically vocab based questions. In this kind of questions, you are going to go to the line number, and contextually you need to understand what that vocab meant, and then you have to answer the questions. So these are the 5 kinds of questions that you would encounter on an SAT exam. The next one are the techniques that are needed to excel in this kind of a test. They are basically the skimming. There are 2 kinds of techniques that you need. There are 2 kinds of techniques that are needed, and the first one is the skimming, and the second one is the scanning. When you talk about skimming, we're talking about, these 2 techniques will help you understand, and they are going to, help you understand how to go to the right question, and you have to pick it up. So when we are talking about the skimming part, we are going to talk about the extensive information. And when you're talking about scanning, we are going to talk about the intensive info. Okay, now when we're talking about extensive and intensive, we need to understand one thing. What we need to understand is which technique to be used when we are going to the which type of questions requires which kind of a technique. So now when we are talking about skimming, it is basically summary based questions. It basically gives a lot of summary, and you can also answer the inference based questions with this. Okay, skimming gives you that liberty to work on the summary based questions and inference based questions. What it does is you generally get skim a text. Skim is you read the first two lines of the paragraph and the last two lines of the paragraphs, or if the paragraphs are too long, then you read every 10th line and try to make a flow chart, and then you summarize and you can come to pick the right option. But when we come to the scanning part, we are going to use this technique for factual based questions, for vocab based questions, and paired questions. Now, why have we used scanning? Scanning is more intensive information that we are talking about. So, we are going to talk about this intensive, because factual questions are basically, they would be found on some lines. They would be talking about specific line numbers where we have to go and check the lines, and then we have to take choose an option. So factual based questions are required scanning part, because the line number is always given. Whenever we are going to a specific line number, then we are talking about scanning it. Imagine scanning something. And when vocab based question, again this kind of questions talks about the contextual meaning in a particular line number. So again we are going to use a line number, so it also requires the scanning part, because we are going deeper into it. We are going to the specific line number, and then we are trying to find our answer. The third kind of questions are the paired questions. In this paired questions, again the line numbers are given. You will have 4 options where you get the line numbers, and you have to pick the right answer. And as I have already said, that you can either do the second question first, because the line numbers would be given, so you could either choose go to the specific line numbers and understand it, and come to a decision as to why you want that line number, and then you can go to this first question, the earlier question, and then you can answer the question 2. Depending on the line number that you have chosen, you can pick the option from the earlier one. Okay, so this is the kind of techniques that you will be using, and this is the kind of technique that you will use for different kinds of questions, so that it is going to be more helpful. Now when we are talking about the techniques needed, and we are going to talk about what are the kinds of questions that you would have, what are the kinds of text structures you would have. So I have given you at length the complete information about various text structures. We have given complete information about the various different kinds of passages that you would encounter. I have given you the different kinds of in our purpose of the passage, and in our central theme of the passage, and in our side and tone of the passage, I have given you at length the kind of questions that you will encounter there also. So I don't think there would be any doubt left about regarding the kind of attempt that you have to do. So let's get started. And when you get started, please understand, out of this 52 questions, you are going to get a raw score. Whichever answers are right, you are going to get a raw score, and that raw score is again converted into a SAT score that you get out of 800. So please don't understand that because it is 800 and 400 is for reading, so I am going to completely talk about just my each question would be of different if I divide 852, if I divide 800 by 52, probably my answer is one question carries this much. No, this is not about it. Again, it has a rubric. If you open your SAT textbook, you will see the rubric at the back, as how again the reading and the writing rubrics are different, and rubric, it talks about scale score. So now it is going to be in like this. It's going to talk about reading here, and then it's going to talk about writing here, and the same thing goes for that also. In the reading score, if you have scored around 24 right, then there is going to be something as a scale score. If you have scored 26, there's going to be different. If you have scored 32, it's going to be different. If you have scored 40, it is going to be different. So the scores are that. So the final score that you get is from the not the raw score, but the scale score. Scale score is determined from the raw score. So please understand that your each question does not carry so much, but it is about the your scale score that gives you. Again, if you can check the rubric. It is definitely given as or SAT scorecard. It is the same for the verbal also, I mean for the quant part also, where you have a raw score and then you have a scale score too. There are two levels of scaling that happens. You can just have a look at any, even if you type on the Google, you will find this. If you just have to type the SAT scaling method or SAT scorecard, and you will see this. And now out of this 52 questions, the raw score is shown here. Out of 52, whatever percent of number of questions that you get right, let's see 32. And if you go down, whenever you see this 32, just you have to see the scale score here, and that is what is the final score that you are going to get. So this is how, and the same thing happens for the writing part also, and both the writing and the reading is again combined, and then the final score is given to you out of 800. Clear? So this is about your SAT exam, and this is about how we are going to the different text structures, about the different kinds of essays that you are going to encounter. This is the kind of rubric that you are going to see. This is the kind of raw score and the scale score. They are two different things. You can understand it better if you go and check in your check on the Google. You will see the different kinds of raw scores that you will see there, and then you will also see the kind of rubric that is used to understand and determine your score. And you can also see how each score is good or bad. Out of 52, what is a good score and what is a bad score. And there's one more point. Even if you have not taken attempted even one question, you would still get a score of 200 on the SAT verbal part. Like imagine on this test of 800, you have not even taken even one test, one question. Okay, still you're going to get a 200 on the 800, because this is basically an prometric test. It is basically a comprehension level test, and it is not about how they feel that at the age of 15 or 16 or whatever is your age that you have taken, that person would definitely have this much comprehension. So it is basically, so I think I'm clear about to tell you that basically it is more about a prometric test that talks about your IQ and your IQ levels and how well you can do it and stuff like that. So this is about the whole SAT test, and this is about how you have to score. So, and this is how about we have completed our basics on reading. With this session, we are completed with the basics of reading, and we have to now we will be encountering more text structures and different kinds of passages, and we will learn about how to eliminate the options and how to pick the right answer and stuff like that. So I think we are we are clear about it. And if you have any question, you can just come back to your application, or the website, and you can ask a doubt, and definitely I'll be there to help you with your doubts, or my team would be there, my colleagues will be there to help you out. So thank you so much. I hope this session was informative, and it has really helped you to achieve the right kind of a result, to ace your score and to become better. So please guys, understand which are the kinds of passages that you like the most, so that you can take lesser time to do it, and which are the kinds of which are the passages that are really a prick, and you still have no choice. If you want to score a score of above 700, you don't have a choice where you can say that no, I don't want to do this kind of passage. So that's why I said reading is a skill, and you need to slowly develop that skill, and you really have to work on it, and then definitely it's really going to be good enough. So let's start our preparation, and the test dates are probably in the month of October and in December. So kickstart your program, start reading the stuff, and stay tuned. Thank you so much. I hope this session was informative, and it has really helped you understand the whole test as a procedure. Thank you so much.